Oh my God, there's a fish right there. Oh, that's a big fish. He was right up shallow. I mean, he followed my jig in. No, he's got it. He's got it. He's got it. Got it. That's a big fish. There we go. Oh my God. Look at that. It's a big fish. It's a big fish. It's a big fish. It's a big fish. It's a massive fish on the jig. Oh my God. That's a giant. Yo guys, what is up and welcome back to a brand new video here today on the channel. Today, we're fishing a brand new pond that I haven't fished in over a year to see if we can't get on these big pre-spawn bass. So let's get right into today's video. Alright guys, so like I said, today we're coming back out to a pond that I've only fished once in the past year or year and a half. And this pond has gotten on some of my biggest fish ever. It has some giant fish in it, but is always a tough place to fish. I'm going to be starting out with just a little Guggenbait's little juicy jig on a Kraken craw. And I don't see these fish spawning yet like they were in some of the ponds that I have been fishing, just because it is a little bit bigger. The water seems to be colder. So I'm going to be using this jig to kind of target these pre-spawn bass that should be starting to come up shallow since it has been a little bit warmer. So we're going to just be pitching this around up shallow, casting it out towards the middle, and hopefully find some of these big bass. Let's get in there. I'm super, super excited. Oh my God, there's a fish right there. Oh, that's a big fish. Came up right to my jig. This water is so hard to see into. Dang it. He was right up shallow. I mean, he followed my jig in. No, he's got it. He's got it. He's got it. Got it. That's a big fish. There we go. Oh my God. Look at that. It's a big fish. It's a big fish. It's a big fish. It's a big fish. It's a big fish on the jig. It's a massive fish on the jig. It's a massive fish on the jig. Don't you dare come off. That's a massive fish on the jig. Oh my God. That's a giant. That's a giant. He was up shallow. Oh my God. On the jig. I am soaking wet. My rod's in the water. Oh my God. That is a massive fish on the jig. Oh my God. I don't know if that's my PB, but that's a massive fish. Oh my God. Look how chunky that fish is. It's a 5+ pounder right there. Ate the jig. Oh my God. Little juicy jig with the Kraken craw. Oh my God. That is a massive fish on the Kraken craw. I'm soaked right now. Oh my God. This is my biggest fish of the year. Let's get this guy on a scale. Not quite bedding. You can see no blood on the tail, but look at that freaking fish. Oh my God. Let's get him back in the water. That is so, so chunky. Let's go. Oh my God, that's a giant. Let's get him back. All right, guys, my biggest fish of the year, 5.23 pounds. That is a giant fish right there. Definitely a female coming up to spawn. One last look at him. Look at the belly on that fish. Not a huge mouth, but 5.23 pounds. Revive this fish. Let's go. That is a giant fish. I literally ran into the water to get that fish on the jig. Oh my God, my thumb is ripped up. I'm soaking wet. Came out here to a new pond that I haven't fished in so long. Early morning. Throwing this little juicy jig from Guggenbait's. Little Kraken craw on the back in the summer craw color. Destroyed that bait at the bank. I saw one follow it up. It didn't even look that big. Followed it up, came like right up to the bank, following my jig in. I pitched it in one more time, and Just literally let it sit. Line was running, set the hook, jumped in the water to get that fish to stay on. My thumb is just destroyed. That is such a good fish. Let's get back in there. Let's go. PB for the year. Let's get back in there. All right, guys, that is a giant fish right there. Easily my biggest fish of the year. Actually, one of my biggest fish ever, 5.23 pounds. My PB is around 7 pounds, 6.5, 7 pounds. And I have caught quite a few fish around that 5 pound, 5.5 pound mark. But that's easily one of my biggest fish ever. And for it to come throwing a jig, which is one of my favorite baits to throw, just because you just get the strikes you get on it are so cool. I cast it out all the way into the middle. He followed it in. I'm not sure exactly what I said, but I saw a bass followed in. I couldn't see how big it was because I only saw the tail of it. It was just kind of sitting there. It swam back out into the middle. Once it got up shallow, I pitched it back out, maybe 10 feet maximum. And I mean, my line was running and I kind of slipped down the bank, went into the water, grabbed that fish, make sure I get it in. My line was just running. I knew he was on there. Dang, that's such a good fish. And if you haven't seen my last video, in my last video, I actually caught another giant fish. I won't spoil that video too much, and that's pretty much 2 fish in a row that are my 2 biggest fish of the year. That one was definitely a pre-spawn fish, while the one I caught in the previous video was definitely coming up ready to spawn. I actually caught that on a swim bait. If you want to check that video out, make sure you go do so. But I just love throwing this jig in this pond, and the jig is such a good bait for the spawn and the pre-spawn. So in the spring, it's something you have to have it tied on because of the potential it has to catch big fish. Like obviously it showed right there with that 5.23. Just such a great fish. My biggest fish of the year. My biggest fish on the jig. Let's get back in there and get on some more. Oh, is that a fish? I think that's a fish. Yeah, that's a fish. It's not a bad one. There we go. Another one on the jig. Not a bad fish. There we go. Second one of the day. Not a giant like that first one, but still a quality fish. They're definitely feeding up on these jigs. I mean, that's still, probably high 1s, almost 2. Chubby fish right there. Ate the jig. Number 2 on the day. Nothing like that first one, but still a quality fish. Right out in the middle. Felt him biting. Set the hook. Nice, chunky little pre-spawn bass there. Let's get him back. All right, guys, good second fish of the day. Probably up close to 1.5. Nice, chunky little, probably another female coming up for pre-spawn. Definitely feeding on the jig today. Such a fun way to catch them. Right back into the water. Right after that last one, it was a little bit, but I got a few bites in that same spot. And I cast it back over there. And just felt some weight on my line. Didn't even feel him running like I did with that first one. Just felt some weight. Set the hook. Absolutely destroyed that Guggen Baits little juicy jig. Just such a fun way to catch them. It is just kind of dragging the bait, but the strikes you get on it is just so fun. Let me just show you this jig, because obviously it is working to catch these fish. Just a Guggen Baits little juicy jig. Got it in a kind of bluegill color. I'm not exactly sure the name, but it's a bluegill style color. And just a little finesse jig with that Kraken craw on the back. Cut off the first 2 sections of that craw to make it just fit perfectly on this bait, on this jig. And another good fish. Not a giant like the first one, but I'll absolutely take it. Pretty much just casting out into the middle. These fish are pre-spawn, so they're going to be starting to come out shallow. Obviously, that first one I caught, followed it all the way up, and then ate it at the bank. And that one, out in the middle, kind of came over some rocks or maybe some brush in the water. I could feel it pop over it, and then all of a sudden, next pop, just wait on my line, and he destroyed it. If you guys aren't throwing the jig in the spring, you're doing something wrong, because it catches the big fish, and even pre-spawn, post-spawn, and during the spawn, it's one of the best baits you can throw. Alright guys, so I'm back at home editing this video, and I forgot to do an outro since I was just so excited after that fish, so I'm going to do one right now. Such a great day of fishing. Definitely one of the better days I've had all year, despite the fact that I only got 2 fish. Got the biggest fish of the year for me, 5.23 pounds. Not a massive fish, not my PB level, but still such a good fish on the jig. Bait that I really enjoy throwing. But if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure you hit it with a thumbs up. Subscribe down below if you did enjoy and you are new to the channel. I really appreciate all the support that these videos are getting. It truly means a lot. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'm going to have more bangers coming every single week, so you're going to want to stay tuned for those. Hopefully we can't even break that biggest fish of the year in the near future. I'm sure we can do it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.